The Chairman's Conversation Special Edition with MSG Africa Broadcasting Chairman Given Mkhari in conversation with Dr Mbuyiseni Ndlozi on Power 98.7 and Capricorn FM.
All right, so here we are. Good morning, South Africa. Good morning to the world. Good morning to the people of the continent of Africa. My name is Given Mkhari. Mwana Josephina Mkhari na Dawen Mgimeti. What a privilege it is to speak to you after so many years of a bit of a silence or mute. Today is a very special day for us as Power 98.7, as Capricorn FM. And we also would like to welcome the viewers of ENCA, Newsroom Africa, as well as those who are streaming on YouTube, on the Power 987 YouTube, on Facebook, or wherever you may be receiving us from. We have a very special morning, and I think we're going to spend about 2 hours of an authentic, frank, honest, and direct conversation with my brother, who happens to have gone to school. So he's a doctor, and I remain a mister. And God willing, one day he will honor me at his university as a doctor, inshallah. The reason we're having this conversation is because we, after about 11 years of having been on air as Power 987, and with our firstborn in Limpopo, Capricorn FM, our quest, our desire, our determination and our inspiration has always been to awaken a people that for years have been minimized, have been otherized, have been defined by and through other people's terms. And I want us to reflect before we start this conversation with Dr. Ndlozi by going back to the basics. And I wish for each and every one of you, particularly the people of Capricorn FM, who may not be daily exposed to the Power Manifesto, to listen to every word, verb, noun, and adjective that is going to come out of the Power Manifesto. And I want us to play the manifesto, and we'll continue the conversation.
Power to your ambition. Power to what you stand for, what you believe in. To making something out of anything and everything out of nothing. Power to the wise, the warriors who conquer boardrooms, social battalions, and skeptical bureaucrats. Power to the courageous souls, the spiritual teleporters, them who raise future leaders while shaping leaders' futures, all in a day's work. Leaders in their own rights, crowd shakers, the groundbreakers. We say power to you, the harmonic, melodic airbender, the platform taker, the voice of reason, the perception shifter, the sister and brother from another mother. To you who envisions an Azania alive, to you who have your ear to the ground of this golden plateau, immersed in conversations that are yet to be heard. To you who realize and materialize all that can possibly be done under the South African sun. You who won't give up until what's right is done. We say to all of you who know what's true, the time has come to dial into a frequency that allows you to really be you. To you we say power, Power FM. Now we're talking.
So the story behind the manifesto is that post being honored by the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa to utilize an asset that cannot be owned by a private citizen, which is Spectrum. Spectrum is a national asset. And those who are blessed enough by the authorities to utilize the spectrum to communicate carry a massive responsibility. And the words behind the manifesto were a declaration of intent, a promise to our people about what this platform is supposed to be about, in line with what we had promised the authorities, the regulators, about how we intended to use this national asset called spectrum. We don't take it for granted. So as a team, upon developing the manifesto, some of us believe in parents, and I've seen it, Dr. Ndlozi, doing this. I took the manifesto to a gentleman who I respect, who is my spiritual leader, a brother and a father, who happens to have been a president of this country, President Thabo Mbeki. And Mukonde Rashtanga and I went to see him very late at night. That was probably one of the longest nights of my life. We interrogated every word. And when Mbeki agrees with something, you can tell. Until we got to a line where we say, to you who envision an Azania alive, he said, stop right there. Chief, what is Azania? So with my passionate Teflop history and a bit of very pure level of activism at the time, I make an argument that Azania is the original name of Afrika. And we're in the study upstairs in his home. He walks in and he pulls a book and he says, read here. And essentially makes an argument that we should not ever make a case that Azania is the original name of Afrika, but that Azania is actually an Arab word for a land of the slaves. So you will see that the original manifesto had Azania, and I didn't change it. I still have in front of me, those of you who are watching on television, this is the frame of the Power Manifesto as it is. Those who are listening on the radio, you do hear it every day. So we amended Azania to South Africa after I was educated. So that's point one. Point two, at the end, we say Power FM. At the time, we didn't change it to 987. It says, now we're talking. We have literally, and if Mkhari Rashtanga is listening right now, he'll remember that night. He says, Chief, what is this SMS language? He says it should read, now we are talking. I said, no, now we're talking. He says, we are talking. So this conversation goes on for a while. So he won Azania and I won we're talking. So we're 1-1. The context of Dr. Ndlozi is very important because I'm not convinced that power has started. I'm not convinced that our mission is accomplished. And it shall not be accomplished by us, though who've been honored with it. It shall be accomplished by generations who care deeply about society. So I'm hoping that the spirit of our conversation, Dr. Ndlozi, hopefully will help us contribute to certain promises we have made. Welcome to Power 987 and Capricorn FM, Dr. Ndlozi.
Thank you very much. Very overwhelming introduction, I must say. But it's a very compelling manifesto. And in light specifically of this constant objective, which is supposed to be an everyday culture to any society that takes its spiritual, cultural, political development and evolution seriously. You've got to have, as part of that evolution, entities and organs that allow us to deepen our levels of consciousness. Of course, in the organs that deepen levels of consciousness about ourselves, about society, about innovations, at the center of that is the media, as well as the education institutions, the general education fraternity, including the pedagogies, meaning the ways in which they teach and assess the potential of young and old people. For me, I know people do this thing of PhD everywhere, you know, a PhD this. But my experience of the PhD is that you come out with the humility to know that you don't know. And you constitute a relationship with yourself in which you are in constant, open territory to learn new, to learn the world, to learn yourself, and to place yourself in it. So yes, indeed, I think that it's powerful. I will not say much about maybe it's a provocation on my part, because another identity is the famous
the song
from Cape to Cairo. I think that President Mbeki, and it would be of great privilege to take up this argument with him.
Okay.
Because isn't it that the word black as well, in relation to specifically the histories of the people of this continent, carries that historic premise.
Yeah.
But the struggle, it is at the same time an intellectual struggle. Maybe that particular name allows us to study its intellectual evolution, that perhaps it didn't remain stagnant.
Right.
It was intellectually, but also through struggle itself, a way of undermining the terms of reference and to own it up on a new and different terms of reference. But certainly you've got to begin by acknowledging we are an oppressed people.
Right.
2, we have been conquered, but we are going to not erase that. And part of the intellectual brilliance of people like Steve Biko with Black consciousness, he faced the same problems. You would remember the court interrogation where the judge says, why don't you say you are more brown? And it's like, if we are more brown, why don't you guys define yourself as more pink?
Yeah.
It is a process of undermining the contours of the origins of the deployment of the term. But maybe the president, in a different situation might be persuaded. But I do think that it carries that intellectual heritage. And there are certainly brilliant contributions by more sophisticated intellectuals and sophisticated political movements that have referenced Tanzania as well as politically to identify themselves in the struggle that they belong to.
Isn't it synonymous to what our brothers across the Atlantic, the African Americans, who would plainly and openly refer and use the N-word, and there's consensus amongst themselves that we can call ourselves N-word, but you don't have a license if you're not part of that society to use the N-word.
Maybe indeed. I think that there is very much, I agree, there is very much similarity in terms of how a specific terminology, but I think Azania is a step further.
Correct.
I think Azania is a step further. There are so many words like that in society. There are so many concepts that whose point of departure is to mock you, whose point of departure is to subdue you. And we can do a linguistic inquiry of the origins of many of those words. Xhosa, for an example. We are told that the word Xhosa originates from the Khoi and the San people and their encounter in the Cape province, and that actually its origins is danger. What they said when they saw danger, that there's that intellectual tracing of the word, that it was not the Batembu, the Pondo who were naming themselves, and ultimately the groups that then became Xhosa, but that it was actually in this dialogue, in this interaction, in this contradiction of them and the Khoi and the San people. There's that tradition as well. And today you meet anybody from that part of the country says, Ndingumxhosa. So I think that it's much more dynamic.
And
It's much
yet,
more dynamic.
and then you'll also have somebody that says, Uncle Mxhosa mna ndumbona.
Dumpondo,
Ewe,
Mthembu, and all
ewe.
of that. Yeah.
No. So it happens as well from my part of the world. A debate that that is fascinating to watch between where people ask you, "Lokunuku mina ndimchangana."
Mhm.
And people say, isn't that derogatory?
Mm.
Aren't you Tsonga?
Yeah. Yeah.
And amongst ourselves, there are people who say, Numtsonga mina animchangana.
Mm.
And yet, some kind of a construction by some of our parents, the Ostalekaya, assigned a young man who was the most enlightened amongst us, Professor H.W. Inzangwis, in the construction of a Bantustan called Gazankulu.
I see.
Which in itself was a diss because a huge part of my people come from Gaza, Island, Mozambique, and the Nkulu part is the bigger one. So he was being naughty there, and those people. But at the end of it is that there is power in numbers. Had we fallen into the trap of separating ourselves to those who call themselves Batsonga, and then you have another state Yabachangan, we would have been in trouble because Otto von Bismarck, the Austrian chancellor, and another genius that this country has ever produced, Dr. H.F. Verwoerd, whom I have all the time for as a thinker. I promise you, I have a big admiration of the brain of Verwoerd because he understood that if you take away from a people their sense of being, their thoughts, their cultures, their beliefs, their language, and tell some amongst them that there are those who are bigger and better and inferior, you don't have to do much. That suppression will self-perpetuate, and we're still seeing that happening in our country. I want to pause there. We'll talk about Azania some other time.
Absolutely.
And Verwoerd.
Yeah.
And people get hated when they say, I see Hitler's brain in its evil nature, but I recognize the brilliance. So at some stage, we have to, don't hate the game or don't hate the player. You might have to hate the game. Let's go back, man. They passed Power Tense 12, I think, this year. You came into the public space more vividly in your role as a member of parliament of the EFF and as a spokesperson. Take me back briefly about not the EFF, your journey to date.
It would be very impossible to say that there is a journey of mine without the EFF. But in essence, I think it's fair to admit, and I've already placed this on the record, my demise in a movement I loved and that I had given my life to coincides with the problems that rocked us following the departure of the then Deputy President Umkhonto Wesizwe. And that particular moment invited a lot of distrust, broken trust. And in my case, not only that, what it did is I began to be clapped as part of the people that are working with Umkhonto Wesizwe to infiltrate the economic freedom fighters for its destruction. Of course, at some point I was suspended, and these charges, or rather these were the reasons for a suspension, and such a suspension was not conventional in that it didn't deploy the instruments of the constitution of the EFF. I accepted it out of a deep faith and hope that with time something might change, but it didn't. And these political disagreements, of course, which I insist that they are political, resulted obviously in my demise. And a part of that was this idea that when the then Deputy President came to confide in me about his consideration of going to Umkhonto Wesizwe, which he put as, I think I'll add more value that side. And remember, he was talking to a person that had been a hostile opponent to President Zuma, to the phenomenon of President Zuma.
Correct.
For over mainly the last 3 years, because the leadership consciously began to entangle us tactically, firstly to that phenomena, but ultimately to the MKP, to the extent that there were declarations that we and MKP are one, but also there was a cooperation that got constituted when we arrived to Parliament, in which there was a charter and a common value political system was engulfed in a piece of paper to say these are the bases in which we work. It didn't take into consideration this long entanglement and the ultimate result, as it were, of it being solidified after the elections,
Right.
much to my long hostility towards it. Firstly, it didn't shock me that Floyd would think so. But also he wasn't thinking of going to join Verwoerd.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to, he wasn't talking to me about a reactionary outfit. He was talking about people we were deliberately, consciously entangled with. But the leadership feels that this was such an important information. I shouldn't have kept it with me. And by the way, I didn't keep it with me. My advice to Floyd was, you have to then proceed and take the leadership into confidence. After obviously all types of dismissals, you can't trust those people, blah, blah, blah. But the reality of the matter is 2.3 million people, the working class, rural base of Mpumalanga and KwaZulu-Natal, as well as significant population in Gauteng, are now behind this banner and are behind President Zuma. That particular disagreement is what led to, the fact of my demise. And I have accepted it. I have accepted that I can't pursue, firstly, the so-called intelligence report, which was based on lies. But secondly, I took a decision that reading the general attitude of the leadership post-conference this year, that there's no chance that I'm going to get the right of reply in the same formal way that the charges, the accusations that I'm a betrayer, I've been disloyal, and I'm a double agent. I will not get the same opportunity to defend and clear my name. And I have said, and I will repeat here, these are political differences. They've characterized in most of the histories of movements that are evolving. I have no doubt in my heart, putting myself in the shoes of the leadership, that perhaps they did think that they are acting in the best interest of protecting the movement.
Sure.
I totally disagree with the way they dealt with me. But I have no doubt that even post that particular dealing with me, my hope is that they would still be committed to the mission of economic emancipation and economic freedom in our lifetime. And as you know, chairman of MSG Group, Mkhari Makwabo, you made some advances that have, at first, I mean, not just first, maybe several times.
Shall we pause there maybe for a second?
Okay.
Let's pause there for a second. Let's pause there for a second. So this is the special edition. Somebody suggested, by the way, that I should have said Happy Valentine's Day to you. I don't know what that means.
Okay.
Do you accept the Valentine?
Isn't it like Azania? It has over the years, man, the day
much, right?
we sort of show love to those we love. I mean,
it's an expression.
History is important, but
yes.
There are ways in which history gets undermined, and things that were supposed to be fundamentally damaging.
Yeah.
So happy
Valentine's Day,
loving day
to power people. Happy Valentine's Day. So my wife this morning, she was very concerned about the fact that I slept very late. So at some stage she gave up. because I was watching your podcast with McG. Wow, MacGyver and Saul. Respect, boys. I love what those brothers are doing.
Amazing, brilliant chaps.
Brothers,
Brilliant
keep it up.
chaps.
What is it? Chill. Make
Podcast
and chill. I loved it. So I was watching it, and we had some guests, and I asked myself to be excused to watch the podcast. And then I wanted to do some prep work for tonight, for this morning, and I was tired, and so I didn't quite see the boss until this morning. I woke up very early, and as you know me, I don't wake up in the morning. I work at nights, and I can work until 5 in the morning, but do not wake me up at 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
So boss lady sorts out my suits, which I think it's a decent suit. She chose it, and she decided, you wore a black suit yesterday, you need to be lighter, it's a Friday. And I said, babe, but by the time this thing goes wherever, no one will remember what day it was. But she insisted I must wear this suit. And so then she says to me, Happy Valentine's Day. And she gives me a kiss. It was a bit of a disorientation, because me, I'm not on Valentine's mood. Particularly this time, I'm thinking, the chairman's conversation with Dr. Ndlozi. I haven't done this in quite a few years, but I felt it necessary that we host you. So once again, to power listeners who are listening to us on 98.7, on 103.6 in Soweto, 104.4, 107.2, and our family in Limpopo on Capricorn FM 96.0 in Polokwane. And I won't call all the frequencies. We don't have much time. But I can to be in this conversation with Dr. Ndlozi. Did I thank you for making time, by the way?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
And thanks for hosting me.
Thank you.
I see an entourage of visual broadcasters, and I must thank them too. Thank you.
Yes,
thanks. You're very kind, all of you.
No, thanks
you.
to the ENCA family. As you know, that for most years that we've done the chairman's conversation, ENCA have always been with us. Also, this is, I think, is the first time that we do a partnership with Newsroom Africa. Welcome, Newsroom. Welcome to the family.
Thank you.
And those who are watching and listening on the Power 987 YouTube channel, those who are streaming on power987.co.za, those who are tuning into our live TikTok channel. What is amazing about today is essentially the future of media, that historically media would have been originally, audio, what people call radio, which is the original social media. And so often people ask me, are you not threatened by podcasts and streaming and internet and I remind people that the ear is the one organ of the body that doesn't move. Everything else moves. Your eyes moves, your lips move, your nose, your limbs. The ear does not move. And for as long as the ear does not move, radio is going nowhere.
It means you can do other things and listen at the same time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We can sing and eat at the same time. So what is happening today, the partnership that we have with ENCA, with Newsroom Africa, and whatever we're doing throughout our platforms, is essentially the future of media.
I see.
What matters the most is the content and the people delivering the content, the people who are coordinating the content, the people who are aggregating the content. All these other discussions are about distribution of the medium. So if somebody says to me, and somebody says, does the emergence of rice means the demise of pap? Ask that to the Chinese, right? Conversations, content, engagements, storytelling is a place at which human beings connect. So the format or the nature of the platform is irrelevant. There's something that we call text, which you write. Before it was text, it was handwriting. Then type machines came in, fax machines came in, email, the written word. Its manifestation in terms of media, traditional media, is called print media. Then you got audio, sound, best represented by radio. Then you got video, television, best represented by linear television. People will always see. People will always read. People will always hear. As things evolve, as we get better as beings, the platforms or the exhaust of that sound may change. Some exhausts are quiet, others are louder. Nevertheless, the machine works.
Sure.
That's what we do. We are not obsessed about how our content manifests in terms of outlook or platform. It's about the message. That is what the platform is all about.
Okay.
I want to emphasize that, because those who want to get into this business looking for a quick cash and a quick buck, they're in for a surprise. It's a very expensive business. It is expensive on reputation. It is very lonely. It elevates people's names that personally I've experienced, where people defocus from the essence or the purpose and they personalize it. Babu Laka Power Mkhari. Mkhari who can go for the whole year without coming to the studio. The technical team will tell you, and I'm glad some of the TV guys were here, that I was taught how to operate this desk this morning. I have never operated this desk. I don't know half of what these buttons mean, right? That's not my job. My job is to dream. My job is to listen to what my ancestors say, as per what God has decided will be said. And that message, whether this Mbuyiseni or Mkhari, Floyd or Ramaphosa, Helen or Holomisa, when God decides to talk to his children, let me rephrase, when God decides to talk to her children, nobody will stop. The timing, the location and the terms of that message may vary, but the message shall land. So with or without Mkhari, power shall succeed. Capricorn shall succeed. The founders of all these media companies have got time limitations. This platform shall succeed. As business people, our challenge is to ensure that they're sustainable. I say this, Dr. Ndlozi, because you've just uttered the importance of the quest for the economic liberation of the oppressed Black people. With or without Julius Malema, that will go ahead. Now, I want to tell you this. It is not a secret that Julius Malema is my younger brother, whom I love dearly. You know this more than anyone else. Floyd Shivambu is my younger brother, whom I love dearly. Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi is my younger brother, whom I love dearly. And I want to restrict myself to the EFF crew. So often I get to hear, and when I'm carrying, you have failed because you are their big brother. I have not failed. I haven't. It's not my job. You guys made your own decisions, as you should, as adults and as individuals. But hopefully, when all is said and done, the objective of the economic liberation of our people shall be attained. Before I let us proceed, I just want you to know that Julius called me last night at about 12 midnight to say, Makwabo, we were supposed to meet. I was in Cape Town. I came back early. I know that you've got a commitment with your younger brother, Ndlozi. Let's make time, but please do know that I'll be listening, and I wish you, my brothers, the best of luck. I'll be listening. So, Ashabi, Mwanamani, thank you so much for honoring us with that call. The night before that, I was with Floyd, and I spent a good 3 hours with Floyd from about, I think I left the office at about 11 until about 3 in the morning. And I was talking to my younger brother. Just a beautiful conversation. I did tell him, and he did know anyway, that we are talking today. I have, as I do, speak to all political leaders and activists and business people in this country. I'm spending the next 2 nights on Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm spending quality time with my sister, Helen Zealand, at her house in Cape Town. Uncle Holomisa is my brother. And Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, what's our brother? Ngwanesu. Goodness me. We can go on. There isn't a single politician who is respectful and decent that I don't spend time with. Some are family, some are friends. President Ramaphosa didn't show up for the chairman's conversation the other day, but he's my brother. Ramaphosa and I have done a lot for this country. And I shall not let one event erase a deep relationship, professional relationship, brotherly relationship, personal relationship. Our children, his grandchildren and nieces are my children's friends. This is family. And I know I've taken a lot of time because this is not an interview, it's a conversation. So, Dr. Ndlozi, you've said to the world that we're now to politics. What's the plan? You spoke about community, what, and conversation. What's the plan? What are you doing next?
Well, I mean, I think maybe I must respond to the soliloquy that you have laid out.
Go ahead.
Two things really stand out for me, Mkhari, and I must thank you for coming out with regards to these conversations you have had.
Yeah.
My first reply relates to the objective of always putting the country above.
Yeah.
Of always acting in the interest of what takes the country forward. Across the political lines, across the political colors. And who doesn't know that the 2024 elections were the most humbling? They were the most humbling to any ambitions of 2/3. They were humbling to any ambitions of continuing the one-party dominating political system. But they were also very crushing to some moonshot alliances. But that humility, part of that humbling experience, requires a change in tactics. And we've got to always, to the extent possible, never make tactics principles. Tactics are not principles.
Sure.
Tactics are the different mechanisms through which we arrive at the achievement of a principle. And the tactics change because of the changing conditions on the ground. The conditions politically in South Africa have changed. That conversation, it is my hope too, and in this case for the progressive forces in the country, those forces who are unapologetically on the side of the oppressed, who's being political, who's coming into the formation of a political organ, is about speaking for those who cannot be heard, speaking for those who are oppressed, the working class, the poor, the unemployed, the women, the children. If these are your objectives, particularly in light of building an equal society that disrupts apartheid and colonial forms of ownership and distribution of wealth, in light of a much bigger vision of an equal society, if those forces, could never give up on having a conversation about how they coalesce, the biggest lesson of the liberation of African people from Cape to Cairo and in the diaspora is this tragic and catastrophic tendency to be collapsed by the enemy. That's why Black institutions don't survive. They don't survive beyond their founders. Very few institutions are, because they quickly turn into each other, into moments of self-sabotage, of self-mutilation. And that is seemingly the nature of the Black liberating or the Black political subject. We've got to be committed. We've got to push back against false divisions. We've got to push back against false separations and always act in the interest of the political objectives of putting the country and its liberation first. So those are my brothers too. Malema is my brother, and of us in our generation, you would know, he was a very terrible example in the hands of the establishment in 2012, in particular, to try harass him, destroy him, so that the rest of young people don't dare believe in the ideas he was speaking about. But secondly, we don't join politics. We remain apolitical. And it is important that we galvanize the economic emancipation movement through and with him. And today, the economic emancipation ideas are across parliament. There are at least 4 political parties that no longer have a debate on the question of whether land must be expropriated without compensation or not, a state bank, a 24-hour clinic, and so on and so forth. So that conversation, and we, you know, relatively to the other names you pose, Zele, Olomisa, they're in their last 5 years or 10 years. We still possibly have 3 decades ahead of us. And we've got to be better than the people that came before us by forging. Do you know what people must remember here?
Yeah.
The 2011 conference of the ANC Youth League.
Yeah. Of the ANC Youth League.
Yes, where the economic emancipation ideas were put. You know, where Malema says to Floyd, Shivambu, I think we're going to be expelled for these ideas. Almost premonition.
Yeah.
But do you know what is fundamentally interesting? And this is a thought maybe politically that I will leave at this stage. In that conference, Malema was there. In that conference, Shibambu was there. Mbalula. Now, these 3 individuals had a plan. Were going to contest the 2012 conference of the then 63% majority ANC in parliament. We're going to contest in the spirit of the freedom in our lifetime generation, with Mbalula as our SG candidate. Kgalema as the president candidate. They were defeated. But Mkhari, those 3 individuals amongst them command 63%.
Sure.
Malema, Shivambu, Mbalula.
As in today.
Today.
Right.
They have, it could be said in historical terms, attained the objectives of the 2011.
Do they know?
I hope, I mean, this is the tragedy, that those 3 individuals could get in a room, slow by slow, bit by bit, and say, comrades, the first duty of a revolutionary is to be selfless.
Amen.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
I mean, Floyd is in Umkhonto as the SG.
Correct.
He's got many troubles. But who doesn't have troubles?
Let's call them challenges, not troubles.
Trouble. Let me tell you, those are troubles. But who doesn't have troubles? Mbax has more
troubles.
More troubles. That gigantic
nobody seems
organization
it doesn't seem like anybody is challenging him as an SG.
No. I can tell you for free. And the president of the EFF has challenges. There's troubles.
Oh, wait.
Troubles. I'm being consistent.
Let's be consistent. Is it troubles or challenges?
Troubles.
Okay.
Because to run an organization that is anti-establishment, anti-imperialist, it is a trouble.
It's troublesome.
But let me say this. And this is a challenge, this is a thought to all progressive forces that care about a coherent consolidation of the Freedom Charter, a coherent consolidation of the Constitution of South Africa. These comrades must just realize they actually have achieved their 2011 dream.
Sure. I'm with Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, who is unemployed, jobless, but doesn't seem defeated. We're having a reflection session. It's a special episode of the Chairman's Conversation on Power 98.7 and Capricorn FM, on Newsroom Africa, ENCA, on Power's digital platforms on YouTube, streaming at power987.co.za. At some stage, I assume and hope that you might want to speak to him. So the call number is 0861 987 000. If you want to talk to Dr. Ndlozi, not as yet, because there's quite a few things that we need to touch on. May I stretch the thesis that you just placed, Dr. Ndlozi,
Yes.
around the 63%?
Yes.
I'm of the view that we actually have, as a nation,
Mhm.
a 2/3 majority of the ultimate freedom of the country.
Mhm.
So as Black people, our biggest gripe is that of economic freedom. I'm fortunate coming from Kamhlaba Zanin. I happen to have a lot of white friends who are brothers and sisters. Most of whom I met through my daughters. My
Mhm.
daughters have got unbelievable social skills. So they've introduced me to a lot of white people. Amazing children of God who are white, who at face value may not utilize the language that we do because our problems are not similar,
Mhm.
but they are spiritually trapped, perpetually live with a lot of guilt of what has happened and the work
Mhm.
and the abuse that Black people, Africans, have for years and generations and centuries been subjected to.
Mhm.
So a lot of white people live with a lot of guilt.
Mhm.
And the new generation of white people, and I'm talking new generation as far as even my age group, the 50-year-olds and going younger,
Yeah.
want the same things that we want as Black people.
Mhm.
They want their children to live in a country where they're not scared. They want their achievements. Young, hard working white men and women who every day go to work, provide for their families, are not at face value interested in the body politic.
Mhm.
They go to school, they go to church,
Mhm.
they fend for their children.
Mhm.
Most of them increasingly don't even have the type of cash that Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, as a broke former parliamentarian, would have. They don't have the quality
Mhm.
of the home that you have. I suspect that our country is ready to have honest and frank conversations that apartheid, indeed, and colonialism
Mhm.
was sponsored by people with a white skin whose origin anthropologically comes from the West.
Mhm.
But I bet over 99% of white South Africans do not have a passport to Australia or Europe. This is the only home they have.
Okay.
And we cannot wish them away. Here's my point. My point is simply this. The 63% that you talk about,
Yeah.
that Malima, Shibambo, and Balula have,
Mhm.
if we started having conversations
Mhm.
and less debates, if we stop tackling each other
Mhm.
and play the ball and not the man,
Mhm.
I suspect that there are more white people who will speak the language of a collective freedom economically,
Mhm.
spiritually, psychologically, and otherwise
Mhm.
in our lifetime for the sake of our children. I'd like to hear your views about that whole lecture.
I don't think we have any use for white guilt. I don't know what it does for us, because once you are guilty, then what? I don't think we have a use for that feeling, for that state of affairs. I think white people have been guilty upon their arrival here. I think they were guilty before the first conquest. I think they've been knowing that and they've reconstructed a relationship of being themselves with that guilt. What is important in relation to the conversation is not to blame the victim.
Mm-hmm.
Over the last 30 years, Mkhari, the white community in South Africa, in terms of their economic conditions, has improved far more
Correct.
than it did under apartheid.
Correct.
Facts.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no interest in the fact that you feel guilty.
Mm-hmm.
What does it appeal? What does it do for me? We need white people to have empathy if the project of coexistence is to exist. But the idea of whiteness needs to end. The idea of that self-definition. Do you know Afrikaner is African?
Correct.
But in their heads, that means white. It's a tragedy that 30 years into the South Africa's democracy, they've not understood that. And they can proudly mobilize on the basis of an Afrikaner, which is a white people, white settler community, go to the US to try and destabilize the transformation agenda of South Africa. We must be unapologetic about that.
Mm-hmm.
You only define yourself as white because you want to distinguish yourself to other black people.
Otherizing.
It is a fundamental identity of othering. You're only white because someone else must be black.
It's either in relation to or against.
So what is that whiteness based on? It's based on the continuous privilege. And that privilege can only always be accrued on the basis of the oppression, exclusion, marginalization, subservience of black people. I'm not saying that we're stuck with white people, whether here in South Africa or the rest of the world. As soon as AfriForum said that they want to leave, I mean, I was like, let us let them, because then it means you're not committed to the difficult questions of this country. So a true conversation, a true human conversation must begin from a point of view that the land is got to be shared. Are you empathetic enough to understand that the condition of Alexander is the condition of landlessness? Are you empathetic enough to understand that the condition of Kaelisha is the condition of landlessness? That these people in this piece of land were deliberately, over years, put into that condition of spacelessness, landlessness, where they live on top of each other. It's a dystopia designed in the interest of the preservation of white privilege, so that you breathe. You may, of course, have other problems where you are breathing, but you are able to walk in a yard that has a big swimming pool. Your children don't play in the streets like the children in the townships because there are no spaces in the yards. They play on the streets and they face all types of dangers. I'm saying to all of us, what we need is empathy. And you can only when you are empathetic will you understand that the privilege that sustains you is on the basis of a crime. We're not asking you to leave South Africa. We're asking you to share. And that sharing must be consistent with the admission that apartheid and colonization were crimes against humanity. If you can accept that, there has to be a reconstruction program that cannot be based on money. Let the government, within the law, expropriate land without compensation. If that can happen, then there is a shared humanity. Then there is a shared humanity. Once a shared humanity comes from the place of empathy, you understanding that I cannot live at the expense of my neighbor's needs. You understanding that I've got to share this place. In any way, who invented land?
Who
We
did?
know
Who did? Who did?
King George in Leopold.
Yeah.
No, you didn't invent land. It's
Yeah.
a natural resource, like
Correct.
it's a common resource like spectrum. We've got
Right.
to share it,
Mm.
and we've got to, as much as possible, make sure that it is used in the collective good. Our generation places an equally important principle right immediately, that we must share the land on the principle of use it or lose it. So even if you are a black person,
Mhm.
you get the land, you must use it, put it into use, be productive, and you must be supported in producing and making the land viable. But the shared humanity begins with a basic understanding of empathy. How do you live here? Even if you are, even if you were born in 1991 when Mandela was released, can you really live with yourself? Let alone the rest of us, with the conditions of the permanent servitude of black people who are not outside the elite distribution of resources. The country is only going to work on the basis of a shared humanity, and the whites need to stop boring us about, oh, I feel guilty, we know we did wrong, but it's been 30 years, and so on and so forth. We need to resolve urgent questions.
So let's talk about that 25-year-old or 15-year-old young white person.
Mhm.
How do they express and or demonstrate sympathy? Because what we are asking for is basic humanity.
Mhm.
How do they demonstrate that?
I wouldn't go to the 14 or 15-year-old. I'm speaking here about a structural organization. You mentioned Helen Zille earlier. I have a big scholastic curiosity over Helen. I think that we miss the point when it comes to her rise, her significance. Helen Zille did something fundamentally impossible. She is a woman. She is a white woman in a white settler community, which is a community that is amongst the most patriarchal because of the basis of it being settler. It is very security oriented.
Correct.
Often moments of security and violence, privilege, masculinity. Helen broke that masculinity. She is possibly the most successful political woman figure in the history of South Africa.
Correct.
And she's presiding over white people. She broke that patriarchal arrangement. If Helen could focus on how that came about, she may be able, as her final leadership contribution, to lead the white community one more time to appreciate that it must accept equality, which begins with these programs: expropriation of land, nationalization of some of the strategic sectors. And if they can accept and those things come into being, a shared humanity will happen.
So talk to me about nationalization of sectors. Why would a state, for example, fail to create institutions in financial services when the state is the ultimate shilungu shafamba, but essentially presides and they've got the power to legislate? What stops the state from creating a state bank? Actually, I must give credit to Pakstow and the team at the DTIC for showing, I nearly used a strong word, and I just remembered I'm in public, for showing some stills to still as in Nsimbi. Of creating what to me a state bank would look like. So the National Empowerment Fund, the DTIC through the NEF, recently announced the formation of a transformation fund, which is geared towards supporting and sponsoring Black entrepreneurs. My understanding is that they're starting with about 100 billion, which is change, by the way. but we are starting somewhere.
Yes.
That is what a Steinbeck should do
Yeah.
at a commercial and corporate investment banking level.
Yeah.
But what stops the state to go retail? What stopped the state with all the resources that they preside over to start mining businesses? What stopped the state? Explain to me at a basic level what
Nothing stops the
what
state.
nationalization in this country means.
Nothing stops
Are you suggesting, and this is, you know, I've had these debates with you and Julius and Floyd, that I think you guys, while you were still at the AFF, thoroughly failed. You are horrible at communicating your intent. And it is the lack of tactic and strategy that undermines even the most noble objectives. When you say to me, bruh, you are a nationalized banks, and I'm an asset manager, and I'm an investor, guess what I'm hearing? You want to take my bank and make it yours. And it's going to be presided by people who are renowned to be corrupt, that use money that is supposed to be for housing, that can fix a bloody pothole. And you're going to tell me you're going to run a bank. I won't buy it.
Well, I mean, that's all of that in the latter part of your statement. Very fair. The South African political elite has not demonstrated seriousness with dealing with corruption. We've got to be very, very clear, and at the levels at which it's articulating now, it is eroding the power of the local state for service delivery. We've got to make some drastic moves, maybe a special court to fast track rigorously, because corruption at the moment, it is finishing in the main the only gain of the liberation struggle, which is the state. You've got, I give you that. But there was in the Banking Act a clause that restricted the state from owning a commercial bank. I'm sure that process to amend that is in process.
I hope so. If it is
there
true,
is
I'm
nothing,
not aware
as
of
I'm
it,
saying that
yeah.
the thinking in South Africa was some exaggerated confidence in the markets. And the markets are more inefficient because they are profit driven.
Well,
they have very little
quite
in the way,
quite speculative.
But in the main, the speculation
with a profit.
The speculation
yes,
is towards mammon.
Correct.
It is towards the profit for profit's sake.
Correct.
Not profit for development's sake. No. Not profit for society, but profit for profit's sake. That's the nature of the markets. You couldn't, on the basis of the priority of the market, in microeconomic planning, hope that there will be the infrastructure they need to operate, transport, and so on and so forth. And I'm saying that in this case, look at the Emirates, look at Saudi Arabia, the oil belongs to the people. It doesn't make it less profitable. Our natural resources, your gold, your platinum, your diamonds, and so on and so forth, we could, as of tomorrow, reach a deal of how these assets can be redirected into the people's hands, into the people's benefits. And it will take 20 years. You will see the type of equality, the type of development that we see in countries where these decisions were made with a harsh treatment on corruption. Nothing stops the state. And this is the challenge that the economic emancipation movement had to put. But you are missing something else. Is the resistance.
Yeah.
So what happened over the last four weeks with Trump, Ramaphosa, Elon Musk, you see that the establishment is not actually going to debate once you are having some proximity to its properties. They don't debate. They're even willing to kill.
Yeah.
They are even willing to cut you off the world and so on and so forth. But I'm saying that there was a time when apartheid was a pure darling of the Euro-American establishment. And in 84, 85, 86, Ronald Reagan, a Republican president, passed refused to impose sanctions on South Africa by vetoing Congress. Congress had to go get a 2/3 majority to override its own president. things change when the explanation and the ideas have spread.
Correct.
So at the outset of the ideas, you are meeting more resistance. So you speak with a specific tone, you speak with a specific radicality because it appears radical. Over time, as it unpacks, you realize there's actually a much more humanity. There's nothing to be feared,
right? Because as you rightly
all.
pointed out, white South Africans have benefited more in material terms and in any form of measure. You can index this thing either way.
Yes,
it will tick 100% in favor of white people. So I said to you, I'm going to see Helen. I'm spending 2 days with her in a home.
Okay.
Do you want to come with me?
No, I'm fine. Thank you very much.
What should I say? What should I? I know what I'm going to say to her, and I'm prepared. I told her why.
No. That part is 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 11.
Yuri.
It's none of my business.
Amen.
It's none of my business.
This is the special edition of the
I'm not opposed to meeting Helen.
No, wait.
Met her many times.
Do my job. I'm employed.
Okay. That's fine. Meet Helen.
I'm employed. You are not employed. So can I do my job? This is the 2025 special edition of the Chairman's Conversation with the one and only Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, former member of parliament, former member of the Economic Freedom Fighters. On Power 987, Capricorn FM, ENCA, Newsroom Africa.
Nah.
I needed to do that so I can keep my job.
Okay.
You may proceed, sir.
I'm saying that, a meeting with you and Helen, I'm not part. But because that is not about Helen, it's about you.
Okay.
Yeah, you go meet Helen.
Okay.
Yeah, it really has to do with you.
You've already said, by the way, Helen is listening right now.
Helen and I know.
Yeah.
We said with her party on the opposite benches.
Yes.
We've had an interactions recently, which we must both agree as to whether it must be public or not. But
you and her or me anyway.
I'm
happy to hear it.
I'm happy to have had an interaction. I've not had a permission from her.
How long ago did you say?
In January.
This year?
Yes, in January.
Was she trying to recruit you?
No.
What did she want to know? What happened
to you, Julius? It had to do with some things that I'm saying that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to have a permission.
Look, I respect
that,
confidentiality. She does know that you're my guest today. I spoke to her yesterday. I agree with you, and I'll be clear. And I told her what I want to talk to you about. I believe that Helen Zille, like you, is one of the most accomplished political figures in South Africa. I believe that she's wasting her power. And I wish, as you know Mkhari, I'm not one to keep quiet. I will call anybody in this country, irrespective whether you're a mfundisi or unganga or you're a principal. If I don't believe that what you're doing is good for South Africa, I will ask for time. And I'll tell you why. Some do listen, others don't. But I also understand that I will get it wrong most of the time.
No, I mean,
you know me.
Responsibility. Yeah, you do have a responsibility to speak to everybody.
Yeah,
we all, I think, do. The impression we shouldn't leave here is that there is a permission we need to those who are committed to preserving the status quo. We actually don't need their permission to change the status quo.
Correct.
And the reading I have in terms of the political agenda of the Democratic Alliance is that it acts in the interest of the preservation of the status quo. And Helen is at the helm of that particular project. That conversation must continue. That conversation must be constituted in the interest of putting South Africa ahead of the rest of us. What will make this place work? What will make this country work so that whether it be our visitors, whether it be the citizens, they are able to live in peace and harmony. Unfortunately, that peace cannot happen without justice.
So I wanna go to the next part of our conversation as we close and we take calls. So in November 2024,
Yeah.
I said, Makwabo, please come home to my house.
Mhm.
Well, all my children know you as much as they know Uncle Julius and they know Uncle whoever and Uncle whoever and Auntie whoever. But I want to go back to the 8th of March, 2018.
Mhm.
Does that day ring a bell?
March 2018.
2018.
I don't remember.
You don't.
Yeah.
So
I was in KwaZulu Natal, I think.
no, you're not. Yes, you're deployed there.
Yes.
When did you have the graduation? Your PhD graduation at your home?
Oh, I think that should have been 2017.
Yes.
2017.
2017.
Yeah.
This Gogo was there. Mamuini was there.
Yes, yes.
A lot of the journalists and friends and family were there.
2017 December, yeah.
2017 December, right? So the graduation, I'm at your house.
Mhm.
Well, and I'm lucky I know your family, your mom, your brother, your partner, and had a privilege of meeting the old lady who was very, very important to you and remains, and I know she still talks to you. And you and I share a very deep spiritual journey. But you still need to catch up because you're still stuck with Jesus. You love your God. I love my God. I'm good friends.
I want
no.
respond to
I'm
that.
talking.
Yeah.
You'll have a chance.
Since you're not God, you can be interrupted.
So we share a very strong spiritual journey. And your mom recently, when we had dinner with your mom and your partner and your brother, we reflected upon this.
Okay.
That you and I grew up very evangelical. We both like to sing. We both write music. People don't know that Dr Mbuyiseni Ndlozi is one of the best songwriters in this country. Well, what they know is you, the voice.
Yeah.
But they don't know you as a songwriter.
Yeah.
As a composer, as an arranger, I do the same. We both love reading, but you are smarter. Therefore, you're a doctor and I'm still a mister. But we are both communicators as well, and we fear God deeply. So all my grandfathers are healers. And so I have a very seamless relationship between certain aspects of Christianity that speaks to my spirituality, but not everything in the Bible speaks to me. I don't believe in a God that stones women, a God who's angry and waiting to punish people for making one mistake, a God who calls himself love and the source of love and tells me that I'm made in his image. And then I make one mistake of stealing stock sweets and then he bans me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
That's not my God. And I'm not interested in that God. And I have no regard for that God.
Okay.
I do have time for a God who is love, a God who inherently is driven by self-interest, but is not selfish. Let me proceed, right? I want you to just take a break and I want to take you back to the 8th of March. Can you just share with us about your spiritual outlook? What it sounds like, what it feels like. Do you pray? Who do you pray to? Because over the past few months as well, you spend a lot of time with men and women of God. Share with us a bit of your outlook to your spirituality.
No. I grew up very much Christian.
Yeah.
Ngafundiswa ukuthandaza ekhaya. And I had a very strong passion in that regard. Amongst the ideas that really captured me as a child, and I didn't have to be told to go to Sunday school and all of that. So I did wish because of my passion. I had, like Oliver Tambo, fantasies and passion to be a pastor.
Yeah.
But as I participated, particularly in the charismatic tradition, hey, there were so many. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry had a calling. So I knew very well that I'm not going to pursue that until there is a very naturalized, like a natural confirmation where I say, I have heard God since in that terrain he has to be the boss,
Mm.
because once I don't know, I would have had to have a very, very dramatic experience.
Mm.
But my life took a different direction, because I don't think that happened. In fact, that didn't happen.
Mm.
I couldn't confuse my passion
Hmm.
with the calling.
Mm.
I couldn't confuse how articulate on the pulpit I was with the calling.
Hmm.
So, yeah, because also you were debating,
Mm.
you were doing public speaking. It was very clear that you've got this almost at your fingertips.
Yeah.
I couldn't confuse that. And you have no idea how many people, when they witness you in that way,
Mm.
they say, you know, but my grandmother, very prayerful.
Oh, yes.
My great grandmother,
Mm.
who was over 100 years when she passed in just before the release of Mandela. I was too young,
Mm.
maybe 6 years, 5 years.
Mm.
Very prayerful as well.
Mm.
She used to pray for Mandela's release.
Mm.
And anyway, but so that is my family. Firstly, when I'm at my mother's uncle, which is Zamdela Sasolburg, it's AME.
Mm.
And then when I'm in Everton, which is where I spend most of my life, ultimately from grade 5, I went to grade 1 in Sasolburg, so I was AME.
Right.
But from
AME
before
is the
that,
Assemblies of God.
AME,
sorry.
African Episcopal.
Of course, sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, yes. Of
And
course.
then in Everton, same priest,
Mm.
which is the Apostola, the tradition Yamanku.
Aha.
And
then,
later on, then got charismatized.
all right.
And I've been
So you moved from saying Jesus to Jesus.
Yeah. Those accents are very important in this space. And obviously, I'm saying that I still very much take that heritage of my life seriously. I'm aware, and this is my final thoughts on this matter, that there is nobody in the world who would have prayed to God with all their heart, and God did not give them the lamb. He may have not said Jesus, he may have not said Allah, he may have not said Buddha, but the activity of the religious experience is this pureness of the heart in seeking the divine.
Amen.
So, and in that sense, I've got a commitment to drink from all religious traditions. I've got the Quran in my house. I've got the Bhagavad Gita in my house. I've got the Talmud. I even have Hasidic tales.
What is that? What is Hasidic tales?
It's a Hasidic. Hasidics is a movement within Judaism of the Baal Shem Tov.
Okay.
So I've got, I traverse, including the Bible.
Good.
Of course, my base
your tradition
is the Bible.
Yeah.
Base is the Bible.
Okay.
Yes.
So
And
base is in foundation.
Yes.
As a reference point. So you'll engage with all forms of text.
Yes.
But your reference point
ultimately, yes, the way in which I hear them and all of that.
Yeah.
But I've got a lot of nyangas as well.
I was gonna, please, I want us to go there.
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between your spiritual connection to God as an African and a healer, the nyanga, the nganga, the sangoma, and all those. Take me through your understanding of that world.
I think there is certainly a powerful dialogue that is long overdue to understand how the gift of the nyangas in understanding the elements and to marshal the power of these natural elements in the performance of or in service of both the human physical being as well as the human spiritual and psychological being. It's obviously clear that plants, have impact. That this and that element in the soils, in the water, in the fire, there is in that tradition still some dialogue, those who are committed to scholastic accountability in that tradition are open to having the conversation about what it is that they're feeling, they're hearing, they are seeing, vis-a-vis not telling lies, vis-a-vis not abusing our people. Just like that particular scholastic accountability resides with the Catholic Church, with the Methodist Church, with Bushiri, and so on and so forth. Ultimately, witches are existent everywhere.
In every culture.
In every culture.
And the most dangerous ones, by the way, don't even have to elevate it to spirituality. They're just haters.
They're just basically haters.
Just by virtue of they witch you, they bewitch you for working hard. For being yourself. They don't even have to go extra.
Or for just
they speak ill of you.
Yes.
They say power is anti this, don't advertise there. Because unfortunately, because we're a traumatized nation, and I'm driving to your point, we have done so much bad to ourselves. We are likely to tolerate somebody succeeding if they don't come from amongst ourselves. And we even dance about it. Sisokola sonke, some sokoloko. It's dangerous. There isn't an industry, Dr. Ndlozi, other than what, thank God, and may God keep him for longer, Dr. Ivan Khoza. I'm telling you, if we didn't even have the people like Dr. Ivan Khoza, even football would have been gone.
Yes.
Thank God for some strong families in the taxi industries who have protected just one of the few industries that we own. We label them, we call them Inkabe. Those are business people, most of them very proud Africans, who say this industry is ours and will protect it at all costs. So we at least, have some football and the taxi industry. But we're not in logistics. We have sprinkles in mining. We are definitely not in media. Now, the Americans call media the fourth estate. So they make a clear distinction between the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. And then they elevate this industry, the media, into the fourth estate. It is embarrassing and very painful that 30 years later, the fourth estate that shapes people's view of themselves, how people relate in their homes, at church, at school, their understanding of what an economy is, what power is. Real power, by the way, our obsession with party politics is upsetting and disturbing, in my view. You cannot run a country, particularly as black people, you cannot transform an economy and you outsource what your children are educated, who teaches them, what they are being taught at school and in public, and you think you'll be liberated. It's beyond naivety. So my challenge to my people, to my country, we have to stop outsourcing our future and expect some sympathy, particularly from people who are living with a lot of guilt and are yet to be released from that guilt to transition to empathy. So the media industry is very important. And unfortunately, those of us who have raised our head to say we'll try it, it comes at a massive price. It's very painful. It comes at a massive price. Your person, your family, your livelihood. This is rough. But I'm grateful to a few believers who still support us. It's tough.
So what was about the 8th of March?
No, I'm going there. I'm a Shangan guy. We take our time. We don't just arrive. That's us in Limpopo. Dr. Ndlozi, in November last year, I approached you and I said, I have 3 ideas that I want to share with you. Just watching what was happening. I spoke to you about a possibility that I believe you should open a church.
Yes,
that's what you did, and it dismissed me. Right? I said to you, I believe you should open a church.
Yes.
Then I said, I would like you to consider an education institution, private
Mhm.
education institution. And I said,
Mhm.
poor as I am, I'll put some money behind it.
Mhm.
You didn't say much about it. And then the third one was something around what can we do to contribute towards elevating a dialogue in South Africa through community activism.
Mhm.
I was disappointed that you dismissed all of my 3 ideas.
Mhm.
I was disappointed because I told Floyd from the onset that
Mhm.
there's no way, if he knows you, there was no way you're going to join MKP. I was very convinced. I knew it like I knew it. And I told a lot of my friends it was not going to happen. I then suggested these 3 options.
Yeah.
Let's take this conversation forward. Why did you dismiss me?
Well, Mkhari, partly that has been answered by what you call a spiritual journey. Hey, you know, that was in December, by the way. It was not November.
Bro.
We can check the facts. But I was in a very different space. I was in a very different time for, I mean, I think I will not hide it that there was a lot of heartbreaking because this demise that had befallen shook my world and my identity. And it was also the timing. That's why I'm saying it was December, because it was literally on the eve of the last conference.
Yes, you're right.
That's how I know the timing. But in any way, it was a bad timing to make any suggestion to me about what else to do. Incidentally, the second offer, you know, because everybody was very worried. Everybody was saying, we can't have this guy go into the dungeons and to the abyss. But mainly in December, that was the context in which I had to dismiss because I had a lot of faith. I believed that no, it's not my end in terms of party politics, and it didn't happen. But so we are here today.
Yeah. So let me share with those who are listening and watching. My proposal to Dr. Ndlozi comes from the 8th of March. I remember that day very well. I remember the day very well because my wife was hosting a function.
This is 2018.
2018.
I see.
Yes. My wife was hosting a function at and it was an opera gig. That Mutsing group that she has the honor of leading. And they were sponsoring. And I did say to her that day that I'm gonna leave a bit early because I had worked hard to convince you to come to Power for an interview.
Yes.
The person who was hosting the show at the time you didn't like, and you gave me the
JJ.
Yes. He said, I am not going to talk to JJ.
Yeah.
And I said, why? You told me the reasons why you had reservations. I said, the beauty about Power is that we don't edit ourselves. So if you think he's full of stuff, tell him on air. And you guys take it on. Be big boys.
We had a constructive conversation, actually.
And that day,
I'm happy you convinced me.
Yes. I said, no, but don't. And this is the point about South Africa. This, guys, we must stop tackling each other and talk. God gave us voices and brains. It's okay to talk to people you don't agree with.
Okay.
And thank you for honoring me, because it took me months to say, please go into JJ.
Yeah.
You had a perception of the gentleman. JJ, by the way, was the MC at my wedding.
Yeah, you told me that.
I was the MC at his wedding.
Yeah, you told me that.
So when JJ got excited after what we've traveled, I was shocked and I remain shocked. So I understand what you mean by being hurt and betrayed. He said a lot of things about me in public. He's never been to my house, this guy, by the way. He talks as if he's been to my house. JJ Mkhari. So how do you talk about what's happening in my house? You've never been there. No, hold on. Let me continue. Because I've kept quiet for too long about a lot of rubbish.
Mm-hmm.
JJ Tabane, because he's known me for years, from my varsity days,
Mm-hmm.
and he knows that Mkhari is that type of a guy who does not respond or react.
Mm-hmm.
He has run this lie
Mm-hmm.
that he knows me.
Mm-hmm.
No, he doesn't know me. We have traveled a journey together.
Mm-hmm.
He was my leader at TEFLOP. JJ was our vice president, external affairs of the SRC. He was my leader.
Yeah.
All right. He led a campus where I was a student, but he never led me because I've never served under any structure led by JJ Taban. We've worked together. He's been my client in business, but I've never worked for JJ.
I see.
Right? The fact that because we like each other and have loved each other as brothers, I'm going to use the word, that Floyd and Julia's debate. You're either your brother or you're not my brother. There's no in between. Floyd must get real. This thing of disowning that Julius was never his brother, that's a lie. We all know. I know. And I challenged Floyd Shibambu to come out publicly and say, Mkhari Hemba, Julius was not my brother. It's a lie. Julius is Floyd's brother. And Floyd is brother's brother. The fact that brothers don't get along today, you can't unbrother yourself.
Yeah.
Come on. Let's respect society. The point I'm driving is this. I have no tolerance for lies. I have accepted a lot of lies because there's a part of me that says, I don't play in the mud. I don't, because I love my white shirts. And they are washed very well and they are looked after, and they shall not just be thrown anywhere. My silence should never be misinterpreted for consent. I go back to the 8th of March 2018. My boss at home is hosting. I've asked you to please come and talk to JJ. It took a while, and then you finally agreed to do it. And I listened to this interview, and I've heard you as well. Actually, it was also about getting Malima here. You're saying not even Julius is going to talk to that guy. So, gents, forget about the guy. What we do as microphones, you're talking to the people. Don't be obsessed about who's conducting the conversation.
Yeah.
Talk to your people. And we finally got to do it. At the end of that conversation, and after I had been to your graduation, I whispered to you to say, Dr. Ndlozi, I think you'd make an amazing talk show host. That conversation I'm reminding you happened on the 8th of March, 2018.
Yes.
Okay. You may not remember the day. I remember.
I see.
Because as you know, I'm a very intentional person.
Yes.
Fast forward to last year. You dismissed it.
I did.
No, like you were rude.
No, I was robust. I was robust, and I found it very
firm.
I found it very insensitive.
Yes.
To my situation.
Yes.
It looked like one of those CIA plots.
Are you talking now back to
2018? No, December.
No, before we go to
plots
December. Before December.
Drive a wedge and completely exhume me out of a home that I had belonged to. Yeah. But I mean, I'm saying that's why I dismissed it.
Yes. No, you dismissed me. And that wasn't kind.
It was robust.
You told me I was mad.
Well, that's how we speak in private.
And then my church proposal. I said, let's start the church. I'll run it. Remember?
I dismissed it too.
Yes.
That I still do.
Yes. And then my other one was about, and I think this is where we agree, and which I hope you're going to tell your people what your plans are. That there's a role in society beyond party politics, beyond class, beyond gender dynamics, for somebody to stand up and not preach stuff, but do stuff. Right? There we're aligned in the context of transformation and growing our people. There we agree. Now, correct?
Absolutely. Civil society anchored in community development, advocacy,
Yeah.
research.
Yeah.
The idea is to try and salvage the already existing work, but it is basically not speaking to each other, of community development workers that are trying to uplift our people into sustainable forms of self-sufficiency, in which two principles reign. On the one hand, liberation is about the people liberating themselves.
Correct.
On the other hand, freedom has to do with being responsible for ourselves. And to forge these things, we cannot depend only on the political principle. The political principle is valid, but it has limitation. Political party platforms are valid, but they have limitations. And there is a much more powerful and fruitful terrain of struggle, which we often, particularly in the Black communities, relegate as less than politics, relegate as less than business, and patronize that space. But it's actually where the true fabric of society in the everyday is forged, and that's civil society. You get that wrong in any community, the politics, the economics, and so on and so forth misfire.
Right.
And I just want to dedicate my life to the harnessing of that space and giving it a proper national and global articulation, such that it has a capacity for research, it has capacity for advocacy, both domestically in the continent as well as in the world, because it has a unique articulation of the agenda of the nation.
Right.
Yes.
So you're done with party politics?
I've left party politics, all of them. I'm not going to join any political party. I have resigned from the EFF.
A lot of politicians say that. They say, no, I'm not going there, I'm going there. And then 2 months later, 3 months later, Gwaza, fighter, comrade.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
I'm not going to do that.
Is this a public commitment to society? So can we disown you?
It's a public commitment to myself and what I would like to do.
Okay.
But hardly are such movements the prerogative and the function of individual.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I'm saying that particular terrain of struggle has long been neglected, and I'd like to go and focus heavily into that space.
So I want to try to convince you on air that I really believe that this church is important. I really believe that you should reconsider Magagerek.
Okay.
I said to you on that day, Dr. Ndlozi, that your church does not necessarily have to be religious. I said to you, Dr. Ndlozi, your church does not have to be on a Sunday. I said to you, your church should not have to take in offerings. I suggested to you that your church does not need praise and worship. I suggested to you that your church does not require to preach, that your church requires you to listen. And then, given all your skills and talents in the arts, your understanding of the economy, your understanding of politics, your soul, people love you because you are a genuine human being. South Africa loves you because you are so easy to love. Always among Uncle Bay or something.
Uncle? Jesus.
Are you not?
Am I graduating in these platforms?
What are we talking about? What did you are Bay something? Benton.
Somebody correct him, man.
Yeah, your Uncle Bay or something.
Oh my God, they quiet.
Baby Bay. What do they
Baby Bay.
What do they call you?
Oh God, I don't know these days. I mean, let's move along.
But you are baying somewhere. You've got a bay somewhere. And bay means babe. Am I correct?
Babe, I'm told. Yes.
Bay means it's like a what for babe? What
babe? Boyfriend.
There's a bay something. His babe, yeah, his baby something. The people's babe. The people's babe.
Uncle Bay.
Uncle Bay. Okay, let's rephrase.
That's worlds apart.
Today, you're Uncle Bay.
No,
okay,
man.
Uncle Bay. So I said then, I proceed to say, Uncle Bay, Baby Bay, People's Bay. Then, then I said to you, I believe that your church does not take a message out. Your church aggregates voices pronounced and silenced, muted or loud. Your church is a graduation, it's a pivoting moment from what you've done for the past 10 years. Your church is that of a sponge, which is the life story, Dr. Ndlozi, because you're a perpetual student. You're interested in spirituality, in arts, in geography, anthropology. You love science. You are all that. You're academic. But at the core of you, you are an activist who wants to serve.
Yes.
And I love what you said, by the way, on McGee's show yesterday, when somebody said, how do you feel when people call you Ice Boy? I'm not going to paraphrase your response. I thought it was a masterstroke.
Thank you.
The taking pride in serving, which is what those who are in leadership should understand. Malcolm Gladwell talks about the PDI, the Power Distance Index. The broader the space between people who lead and those that they serve, the higher the propensity of the served to be oppressed. But if you close that gap, leaders understand that they are at our service. I proceed to say to you, Dr. Ndlozi, my request on behalf of the people of South Africa is, can we have a church service where you don't preach, but you're a listener and you aggregate? At least for 3 hours a day. Just 3 hours of your life and you'll do the rest. And talk to us about that conversation to the journey until where we are today.
No, Mkhari, I certainly didn't firstly have it in my radar. And I was about to sign forms to be accepted at the Kennedy School in Harvard, which would have had me leave for 2 years. And the other option was to go to the Du Bois Institute in Harvard as a fellow. I believed that I needed a cooling off and time for reflection until some very important elderly people in the country sought me out. And I'm grateful to that. I felt that maybe when they did weigh in, it was very apparent that perhaps one had been existing without, in that sense, a significant elderly presence. Maybe we conducted our affairs mostly without, as if in the country there are no elders who had traveled the journey that we did. They put sense into my head, and I'm happy this morning to accept that challenge. And once I did start to think about it, I got the necessary reverence. It's the riskiest decision I have had to make yet. But your proposal I accepted in relation to power. And power is important as well, because there is this struggle in our country. That's why I pay a lot of respect to McG, to diversify the media. Diversification at the level specifically of agenda and conversation. And the voices that must never be marginalized for their part or the fabric of this country. There are voices of people, you know, who clean up the pipes beneath the different ecosystems of Johannesburg. Their challenges, what they go through. The nurses that beyond COVID, no one is no longer having a conversation about. The doctors, the academic and scholars who spend years and years to understand a phenomena. And we waste most of our time with current affairs oriented pundits who don't deepen the historicity of whatever may be confronting society at that moment. It would be a great honor, a challenge that I accept with the greatest humility, to join those ranks, and try and contribute from this house, taking its space in an otherwise dominated and an undiversified industry. The media industry is as undiversified as the agriculture industry. Of course, I'm not going to be owning anything. I'm just going to be supporting
time will tell.
An institution
Yes.
of our black brother, and I hope that, you know, I'll be able to help South Africans speak across with each other, across class, across languages, across traditions, across cultures, across party lines, across businesses, and to have a conversation that always is in the interest of the betterment of humanity and making this country a better place to live in.
This is Power 98.7 and Capricorn FM in Limpopo. We recognize and see our viewers on ENCA, streaming on the Power YouTube line, streaming on power987.co.za, and on Newsroom Africa, and wherever else in the world you could be and maybe listening to. South Africa, the world, our people, Power people, I present to you the new host of Power Talk, effective the 3rd of March 2025, Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. Dr. Ndlozi, thank you so much, my brother, for honoring your people, for accepting this challenge. I can tell you that there are people ululating that instead of hearing you once a week, Kasona or Haopala Azania, every morning at 9 o'clock, as of the 3rd of March, they shall be exchanging debate or conversations with you, and Power people will challenge you, and they'll love you and you'll love them. They will teach you and you will share. The role of a talk show host is not to preach or teach. Our job is to listen intently and intentionally, but most importantly, to listen innately. Because we don't hold the content. We do our homework and let the experts speak. However, should the so-called expert or business person or politician disrespect and disregard our people, it is your responsibility to call them out and call them to order. And I have faith as the founder and the chief executive of this business that we could not have prayed for a better brother to facilitate meaningful, constructive, non-partisan, non-classist, non-racist, non-sexist conversations that this country is ready for. I think as a country, as society, we're ready to see each other. But there are people who thrive on dividing a nation. Those include political parties, religious organizations, businesses, and all other formations. Some NGOs are rubbish. They are commercial entities masquerading as community services platforms. Even those must be called out. And I submit to you, my brother, respectfully, Togotela, that it is your task and other members of the Power family to protect our people from further abuse. Our people have been traumatized over too many generations. As the executive chairman of MSG Africa Group and chairman of Power, what an honor, my brother, to welcome you to this family. Monday to Friday, 9 to 12, effective 3 March, Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi is the host of Power Talk. We will, as a station, By Tuesday next week, the managing director, Mr. Rufua Borogo, otherwise known as Tolly B, and his team, Neo Liu and others, will announce the rest of what the lineup of power looks like. Mr. James Kwambana and Muridili Tabo and Prudence Mabasa in Limpopo will also make their own announcements about the adjustments that they are making on Capricorn FM. But as the MSG group, we are really, really honored, my brother, to welcome him home. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate you. Do me a great honor. You are very kind.
No, you're worth it, my brother. You've ended.
Thank you.
You have ended. And every political party leader is welcome. Dr. Ndlozi is not a politician. He was never. I told him before, for years, I said, Ndlozi, you're not a politician. You're an activist. And I maintain.
Yeah.
You need a certain level of to be a politician. When I
I reject that.
That's all right. That's my opinion. That's my view. I don't think you've ever been a politician. You've always been somebody who cares deeply about this country, and your activism, you believe, should be exercised and practiced on a political platform. That's just my view. I know that there are a lot of people that are wanting to talk to you. Generally, the chairman's conversation will don't take too many lines. The last time I opened lines for Rupert, haters messed up. So I don't take kindly to open lines on a chairman's conversation. But today, I will take my chances. 0861 987 000. Let's take your calls. I'm told, did Neo give us another 30 minutes? Did she? And Toli's agreed. Where's Toli? Okay, cool. So the bosses have given us another half an hour. So let's take those calls on 0861 987 000. My name is Given Mkhari, and my host is the new host of Power Talk from the 3rd of March at 9 o'clock, Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. How do I need to press anything? Okay, what am I to? I don't know how to do this thing. What green means? Do I take the green thing? Hey, Shmafoch. I need a job. Tebogo from Mokopane, welcome to Power.
Hi, Given. Hi, Dr. Ndlozi.
Hi, Tebogo. Go ahead.
All right. Firstly, I just want to congratulate Dr. Ndlozi. I think it will be a wonderful platform for him to share some of his independent views. I had a few things also to ask about. For him to reconcile as well for those who are supporters of the EFF from his exit. I don't know if I can still go there, but I just want to congratulate the good doctor, and I would love to hear more of his thoughts. I'm very excited about him getting on the platform with Power. Am I still there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I think, yeah.
Please. Yes, no, thank you very much. I appreciate the love, and I also wish you the best.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay, excellent. So remember, guys, so I accept the ones that are green, right? Okay, so who's that? Mom Ntusi. Hi, welcome from Mamelodi.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thanks. How's it?
Yeah.
I'm good. You are speaking to Mabuti from Mamelodi.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhari, for giving this opportunity to bring the guy on the show. We are very grateful for this opportunity. And I would like to speak to Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. How are you, my brother?
Ngiyaphila, ngezwa kuwena.
I love my brother, but I would like to say I'm very disappointed as Mabuti from Siyabusa originally. You know, Mr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, you are one of my best politicians. But immediately when I heard that news, Mbuyiseni Ndlozi has been resigned in politics, I was very disappointed. But I will never throw a towel on you, my brother. But what I can advise you, never join any political party. Don't go to MK, don't go to ANC. It's better if maybe you want to start something else. You can start your own thing.
Okay.
But I respect.
Thanks, Mamusi. We gotta go. Falaza, welcome. Ifukile minjani?
Ikona minjani doctor?
Ifukile minjani?
Ikona man. Thank you very much. Look, I'm not disappointed. I think the doctor's demise in his own dialect doesn't suggest that he's disappearing. I think you are repositioning yourself to share yourself with the broader society, and then without attaching yourself to any political party. So for that, I think the doctor is welcomed into the space, and we're looking forward to his contribution and intellectually. So Makwabu, you said 9 o'clock. Is it in the evening or in the morning?
In the morning, and Power Talk 9 to 12 in the morning.
Wow, I thought you should have given the power. After 9 in the evening.
No, we don't make money in the evening. I'm a businessman, bro. There's no money in the evening.
Thank you very much, my brother. Thank you.
Let's go to Martin in Midrand.
Hi, Mr. Mkhari. How are you?
I'm very well, sir.
Good, man. Congratulations to Dr. Ndlozi. How are you, Dr. Ndlozi?
Very well,
Dr.
thank
Ndlozi?
you. Thank you. I'm fine.
Yes, man. Please keep this voice. It's going to be with you every 9 to 12 every day.
Okay.
I'm definitely going to be one of your callers that you should expect calls from. And I think Power FM has actually made a brilliant move by having you on this particular period, because we need people who have got this consciousness when we engage. We need people who are humble and down to earth when we engage on ideas. And I think this is one of the best moves that Power FM has done. I look forward to having that particular interaction with you on a number of issues.
Okay, Martin.
Thank you.
Dr. Ndlozi, you want to respond to Martin?
Thank you, Martin. I will embrace that with all of my heart.
Well, may I take this and Kombla Barman? Is it Jonas? Hey?
Yes. Dr. Ndlozi,
good morning.
Dr Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. First of all, you are welcome today, February 14, and then one other thing is obviously you're a soccer fan. We're not to choose between the three. And then lastly, if you became a president of South Africa tonight, what's your goal here tomorrow? What are you gonna do? Thank you very much.
Okay.
Expropriation of land without compensation. Thank you.
All right. Who's this lady here? I need my glasses. I forgot. We're getting blind, bro. Hi, what's it? This is what you guys do every day. Tsepo. Is that Tsepo? Tando. Where's Tando? Which line is that? Line 7. Oh, okay.
Hi.
Hi, Tando.
Hi. Afternoon. My name is Tando Mayego. I am a political journalist, so this is a very interesting development to me. Usually journalists go to the com side, politicians don't come to the journalist side or the communication side. So this is a very, very interesting development. Just one question from me. Does the deal, the new gig, we're saying the new gig, come as part of an equity deal in MSG?
What do you mean?
Does he have an equity or is he just part of the talent?
No. The business remains an MSG Group subsidiary. This we talk about on air. Unless you wanna bring us some money.
I mean, I don't know.
Okay, Tando Mayego, I'll take money anytime. You know what they say in business: everything for sale, subject to price, eh?
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tando. Which line do I take next, guys? Move with me. We don't have much time. Line 1, who's that? The screen is gone. Hey, infrastructure. You see now, too many of you are calling and then the system is breaking. It's 6:12. This is Power 98.7. My name is Given Mkhari in a special edition of the Chairman's Conversation with the host of Power Talk, effective the 3rd of March, 2025, Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. I'm not seeing the screen. Tsepo is next. Maybe you can give me the names. Yeah. All right. Our screen is what is the word? It's crashing because there are too many people. Move. Where am I getting it? To which one? Where? I'm not seeing names. To him. Where am I seeing names? To talk to Ndlozi while you fix it. Okay. you know what is nice about this business? You know what I love about radio? You can't stage this stuff. The beautiful thing about radio is that it's a very authentic medium, Dr. Ndlozi.
Yeah.
If you're a pretender, people can hear. If you talk to people with disrespect, you lose listeners, right? If you think you're Mr. Know-it-all or Miss Know-it-all, people switch off because they hold the power. Just like in politics, the X, I hold the power to vote for you or not. In our business, you disrespect people, you don't prepare, they switch off. So this medium demands respect. And the biggest sign of respect to a listener by ensuring that whatever you talk about, you are prepared. While the system has crashed because too many people want to talk to you, are you able to give us a sample of what you have in mind in terms of what you want to do with the show, where do you want to take it, things high level? I mean, I know that you still need to meet with the team. A lot of our team members don't know. They're shocked. We've tried very hard to keep this a secret. Do you want to share with us some of your reflections about what you believe the show should do, including the station, and even tips, by the way, and criticisms that you may have?
Well, I haven't even signed anything, as you would know.
Oh, you haven't? Totally, you're so slow, bro.
So, but no, I think there are obviously thoughts, but as a point of departure, it's precisely this moment where one takes the step of listening. We do a lot of that in the work. I know that it doesn't often appear so, but during elections, we do more listening.
Okay.
If you are authentic, than you are doing the talking, because you will not be able to win anybody if you do not know what they think. You can't win anybody on anything, but certainly radio, as you said, more than other mediums, preserves the listener's voice. The capacity on the spot, it is driven by that interaction. And I'm looking forward to that, but also to stage intellectual resources that help our people to live their lives better. Whether it be in community development, in business, in the classroom, as well as artists, whether they be fine artists, creatives, but also political policy making.
Correct.
And of course, the spiritual and religious conversations that help us to destigmatize the nyangas, to destigmatize muti, to destigmatize traditional forms of worship and spirit. So definitely, and I have an interest as well in turning the conversation around when it comes to the past. You must imagine, for instance, what would it mean in order to think and memorialize the June 16 episode? What would it mean to say, yes, indeed, there were these children that got killed, that had this cause. But these children were not passive. These children were fighters. They were not soldiers, but they were fighters. They were not passive in the way in which that they just accepted to die. There was a lot of fighting and resistance that lasted months. Normally the story ends on this side, but on the other side, what would it mean to think about what that resistance resulted into? The way in which the system got disrupted, the ways in which the system itself had casualties, the ways in which the system itself had to reorganize, lost control. Who were these actors that were so dramatically disorganized by teenagers who until that morning nobody knew that they were planning this rather dramatic event? I mean, I'm thinking as well, those are the conversations with which the victim becomes something more than a victim. We see them not as victims. We see them as activists that consciously took a decision to confront the system, and the system lost. It lost lives, it lost order, it lost infrastructure, it lost this and that. And the system had to reorganize its forms of operation because of this. I mean, I'm thinking as well, there are important conversations on the international anti-apartheid movement.
Yes.
Many people don't get to be exposed to how much exactly peopled the liberation of South Africa was. That there was a bunch of lily white students in Europe, specifically Britain, that crippled Barclays Bank in a consumer boycott. That we're going to withdraw all students' accounts so that you know that we don't want apartheid. The rugby tournament confrontations in New Zealand, for an example, that a lot of New Zealanders crashed the match of the Springbok. They got and they staged a sit-in. 99% of these people had never met or been to Africa. Out of the conviction that apartheid is wrong, went and put their bodies in harm. This is why this is the stuff that makes international relations very, very important in South Africa, because there's no other people in the world whose gift of freedom was delivered in assistance by ordinary masses, hundreds of thousands of people in North America, in South America, in Europe, in the Middle East, and so on and so forth, that said, not in our name. And that we can't enjoy this freedom. We can't even talk about the difficulties that it confronts without involving the friends that we've always had in the world. Once you cut those tentacles, Palestine becomes hard to resolve. And after Palestine, now we're hearing Trump is going for Greenland. Trump is going for Canada. If you let that happen, then one day Trump is coming
here
for us.
Yeah.
So in a way, I mean, and obviously a huge acceptance of suggestions, however you want the show to go, how you believe it could showcase community development work happening in Mdantsane, in Chikuma, and so on and so forth, were able to do that.
Which is one part of our business that because we were not supposed to be here, we're not supposed to last this long. A lot of efforts, and I've shared this with you over the years, were put towards destroying this business. And when they couldn't destroy the business, they tried to destroy me. Now there's more of us. Now they need to destroy you. So they need to destroy. A whole lot of other people are joining the group. We will be welcoming more members of this family moving forward. I think we should wrap up.
Thank you.
I have to say though, Dr. Ndlozi, that I love the phrase that you use of how people do wear. One of my pain points, there's a friend of mine who passed away a few years ago. His name was Given Mkhari. At some stage, he was for the BMF. I think he was the regional chair of the BMF in the Western Cape. Gavin had beautiful children with his ex-wife Bev, and those are my children, whom I haven't seen in a while. I hope, as part of your work, there's a very important community in this country called the colored community.
Yes.
That we have done so much injustice to. And we must own up. Where I come from, Agwabo, Zanin, we tasted a bit of tear gas because Kasama Tale from Banguna, once and twice he created havoc, and we had a bit of a tear gas. I know what it smells like, but I won't claim to have really experienced it. Flop, we're naughty. David Makura was my president, and occasionally we had a visit. But by that time, when I was in Flop, we didn't really. It wasn't under the Defense Force occupation. There were people who saw the harshness of apartheid. You spoke about what happened in Soweto. There are some parts of this country, we must not lie, where people did not protest. People chilled, went to school, took their children to the farms, and they were working. The Western Cape, the colored community, stood up, in my view, more than most, against apartheid in practical terms. They didn't write press releases. They didn't sing songs. They got on the road. And these were young people, particularly under the banner of the UDF. The likes of Cheryl Carolas, Alan Busak, the name is endless. I hope that power and a society, as much as we want white people to acknowledge what they've done to us, we also have messed up our own people. And we need to do right with the colored community. I feel very, very strong about that. And I would look forward to one day when you have time for us to answer this so-called colored question. Yeah. It must be answered.
Well, maybe it's time that Afrikaans,
yes,
as a language, is understood to be the language really of Africa, as an Afrikaans of the people we call colors. And this year is exactly 100 years.
Okay,
since the act after the formation of South Africa that included Afrikaans as an official language happened.
100 years.
It's been 100. This is the centenary of the official recognition of Afrikaans after the Act of Union. As an it was English only. But that is the starting point, because the colored people are very proud of Afrikaans. And maybe part of the demystifications that have to happen is around the Afrikaans language as a language of black people, as a language of black people being the people who have only lived with Afrikaans and they were not white. Certainly, I think you make an excellent point. It's something that has to be forged. There are many people who are at the moment tramping up. I repeat the phrase, tramping up colored nationalism. And that
dangerous
basically is like you wake up in the morning and tramp up Shangaan nationalism.
You know what I mean?
We've got to think about a collective identity, that colored people are quintessential South Africans, and
liberators,
people.
And liberators.
And yeah, you make a point. There was more theater of liberation
in the Western Cape.
Don't go far. Just El Dorado.
In Eldos.
Yeah, El Dorado is a rich, massive
and because
history.
the system knew that this group of people were as passionate as crazy, what did the system do? Infiltrated them through the drugs, created gangsterism. So when you think drugs and you think gangsterism, what do you think? You see a colored face. That rubbish must stop.
Yeah,
we must acknowledge that a group, some of us, have been ill-treated. And post 94, we haven't done much with and for those Africans. They are African children.
I agree.
They are us.
Yeah.
And I challenge every person who identifies as colored to please take your space. It's your country. It's your land. You have no other home. Afrikaans, it's your tal Migazi.
Yeah.
Own it. Speak it with pride.
Yes,
and if you want to learn Changano or Zulu, your choice. I feel very strong about that.
Thank you.
Very, very strong about that. Gavin Peterson, my friend, may your soul rest in peace. I love you, brother. I think we should stop here before
Thank
I
you.
cry.
I appreciate it. Thank
All
you.
right. This has been a special edition of the Chairman's Conversation with Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. Vitarameni Given Mkhari, Ntugulwa Madala, wa Josephine, wa Cheza, wa John Jeka, Namatubula, Butwa Shat Natsaki, na Kensan, Papa Tsul, na Ranzo Naval, Nanzala, Man, Nuna Ipiling, Ikansa Shkumba, Kensa Bagashuluman, Inkom. think
The
Bobby.
Chairman's Conversation Special Edition with MSG Africa Broadcasting Chairman Given Mkhari in conversation with Dr Mbuyiseni Ndlozi on Power 98.7 and Capricorn FM.